welcome everyone to Data to the Masses, Automated Word Documentation Creation with FME. So today we are joined by our special guest speaker, Mary Brown. Mary, would you like to give a brief introduction to yourself?
Yes, thanks very much, Elizabeth. Nice to be here. Yes, I'm the GIS team lead at the Swiss Humanitarian Aid. A very small team, some very big tasks at the moment. Thank you.
And Kailin.
Hey, my name is Kailin. I'm an FME support specialist on the desktop side, and you can find me poking around in cases and on the FME community.
And I'm Dale Lutz. I'm one of the two co-founders of Safe Software, and I am just thrilled to have Mary joining us today. I was lucky enough to sneak into Mary's, maybe Mary's regretting this now, but I snuck into her presentation at the FME user conference last August, and was just so impressed by the work that she does and her innovative use of FME. And Mary knows that I then started quoting her from the main stage afterwards, and just so thrilled that she's able to join us today. But before we get into things, I just want to especially thank Mary, because it's been an extremely busy work. As you can imagine, when you see humanitarian aid in a job title, when you have an unprecedented set of earthquakes like we've just had in Turkey, Monday was a very busy day for Mary. But just before we get into it, do you want to just tell us, summarize for us what's gone on, how big of a deal it is for your organization, and some of the early results?
Yes, thanks, Dale. The day on Monday started very early and very intensively. In emergencies, we often send a rapid response team, but in this case, we deployed the Swiss rescue chain for the first time in over a decade. That is a team of about 78 people and 8 dogs. And they're actually having a successful mission. They have already saved, the last update I had was already saved 4 people from the ruins, dug them out. So it's a major event, and we're just glad to be able to contribute.
Well, thank you, for what you do. We like to hope that FME can make a difference in lives, and this and your work amplifies that astronomically. And so we're just thrilled that you're able to take some time out of a very, very busy week to be with us today. And thanks everyone else for joining us. Later on, we can maybe link, but this is kind of the third in a run of webinars we've had, Elizabeth, about this type of topic. So we started, I forget when that was, maybe was it in January with Philip from Ireland, the Irish, assessment agency or valuations office, showing how they saved a lot of time using techniques like we showed today. Then we had John from also Ireland, actually. Yeah. That was so it's sort of an Irish run we've had going here, and he talked about ways of improving productivity and efficiency. And then today we've got Mary, who's going to dig into some of the practical ways. And we're finishing up with Kailin showing us actually almost like a tutorial how you too can start to use this stuff. So very, very excited about what we have today. And with that, I'll hand it back to you, Elizabeth.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Dale. So if you are new to Livestorm, and I just saw someone in the chat might be having some audio issues, I recommend clicking that help button if you do have any audio issues. And there's 4 simple troubleshooting steps there. If you'd like to share your reactions with us during the webinar, we have a button there for that as well. And then we have the questions and chat panel. So drop any questions that you might have for Mary or Kailin throughout the webinar in that questions panel. And then the chat, keep chiming in there, let us know where you're tuning in from, and leave any comments during the webinar. As well to note, if you would like to see a transcription of the webinar, you can click apps and then transcript and see that there. If you would like to download the slides and follow along, you can click the download button on the top right of the deck here. And with that, I'll hand things back to Dale.
Yes, well, today we're going to have Mary talk us through what she's been up to at Swiss Humanitarian Aid. We'll then have, after Mary has shown us a lot of really interesting stuff, then Kailin's going to come on and show us how we can create, like basically for almost a tutorial and an interesting set of examples, creating outputs with Microsoft Word and PowerPoint as well. So we'll enjoy that. And oh, it looks like we got a poll.
We do, yes. So I'll go ahead and publish that now. You'll see that appear under the polls tab, folks. So our question today is, have you used FME to create? And there's a few different options there: Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Adobe PDF, Microsoft Excel, or none of the above yet. So
Elizabeth, we can't see results until you vote, right?
that's correct. So once you voted, you'll be able to see the results as well, folks. So place your votes there. You can pick more than one option if you've used more than one as well.
And probably you shouldn't say none of the above and other things, although
Yes.
the interface would let you do it.
That is true, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Our usage stats do tell us that Excel is a really big format in FME land. And actually, PDF, we, on behalf of all of Safe Software, I apologize to those of you that are making PDFs with FME. We know we've got more work to do there, and we're excited to take that on another round one day. The PDF writing in FME is tuned up for making maps, which is actually a good thing. It's a little bit hard to put documents out to it, and we'd like to find the best of both worlds. But I'm glad to see 9 people having done Microsoft PowerPoint. That's exciting. You know, we used to say that PDF was where data goes to die, but I actually think PowerPoint is the true graveyard for data. So.
All right, looks like most people have voted. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
And at this point, we'll go ahead and turn off our webcams to save on some bandwidth for the upcoming demos.
Okay, but not our microphones.
No, not our microphones.
Okay, so just a couple words. If you're new to Safe Software and FME, we've been around for 29 years. Yikes, I'm getting old. And solving data challenges, data integration between different platforms, different systems, different online systems, different types of data. That's what we've been doing for a long, long time. And we've always been so happy with our use around the world. And today, Mary's talking to us from Switzerland. That was about the second European country where we had success way back in '96. The second European country I made a business trip to in '97 was Switzerland. And turns out that my ancestors are from Switzerland, and I can tell when I'm home. Let's put it that way. So very, very glad to have them involved today. So what FME is today a complete enterprise integration platform that has comprehensive support for spatial data. So we can merge and slice and dice data from all kinds of places, put it out to all kinds of places, and along the way, really understand what spatial is. And that's a hard thing to do, actually. And we've had some very, very smart people working for literally their whole careers. And others, well, the young ones have been working their whole careers. The old ones, it's many more years solving these kinds of problems. And we feel solving them very, very well. I'm very, very proud of what the team has created. On the desktop, we have something we call Workbench. That's a screenshot of it there on the left, where you design data flows from where the data is to where you need it to be. The blue things are called transformers. That's what lets you rearrange data along the way. And Mary's going to be showing us some of her uses of this to produce really extremely valuable and sometimes life-saving results by combining cleverly these blue boxes with inputs and outputs. Then you can take what's done on the desktop, and if you want to, you can put it up on an FME server where it can run in automated fashion. And I happen to know, for example, that the California Earthquake Authority uses FME servers so that when an earthquake in California happens, it automatically wakes up and starts producing results so that the technicians, as soon as they get into the office after their alarms start going off, already have data waiting for them. That's the kind of thing FME server can do. FME Cloud is actually what the California Earthquake Office uses. That's just FME server where they pay by the hour, and we look after giving them a machine for them. And lastly, we do have augmented reality options inside of our FME mobile suite, as well as the ability to run data transformations there. So this is sort of our history about, and just a quick look at the various different types of data that we support, over 500-ish different, in quotes, formats. And I just saw this on Twitter in the last week. You can't spell information without format. And I can't believe I've been doing this for 30 years and never noticed that before. So that's kind of poor of me, but that's a good thing to know. It's no fun necessarily doing all these formats, but it's a necessary thing so that when people like Mary show up in the morning and there's some sort of data set that would be valuable for her, she doesn't have to scratch her head and wonder how she's going to bring that in and start working with it. We try to be wherever data is. And what's interesting is that it doesn't really end in terms of the format families. I think actually, Elizabeth, we're going to be able to add 2022 and 2023 slot on this axis, and we'll put in cloud native data formats, which are a set of formats that are designed specifically for living their lives on the cloud and being able to be accessed in very efficient ways. And we're working with that as well. And I see some love icons. I agree. Those are super cool. And SAFE is proud to actually have sponsored an effort to do stream or cloud optimized zip files. We started SAFE years ago working with zip, and here 30 years later, we're still doing it, and watch for that. Cloud optimized zipped shape file. Yes, it's a thing. Shizzle, it's called. That is coming soon. And so with that, I will hand it off to Mary, who can talk us through what FME has done helping Swiss Humanitarian Aid do the very important work that they've been doing. And thanks again, Mary, for joining us. And with that, I hand it to you.
Thank you very much, Dale. And with that, we'll move on. A little bit about my background. I've been here 6 years at Swiss Humanitarian Aid, and that, I have to admit, to over 15 years as an FME addict. And you've mentioned Ireland. That's me looking out for Murphy's next appearance. So I've lost my mouse. Yeah, sorry. Without FME, GIS would never have become established at the heart of Swiss Humanitarian Aid. I think that's quite simple to say. It means I can tackle the data challenges I otherwise couldn't have done. It's the perfect tool for me in a very dynamic and an often crisis-driven environment, as my day at the moment really does prove. The challenges are manifold, and to be honest, for example, this week, sometimes a little overwhelming. So I'll talk a little bit more about those challenges. Yeah, I live in definitely a crisis can hit at any time, such as early on Monday morning this week. In a typical case, I need to get a spatial overview for the crisis cell, data coming from all sorts of sources, all sorts of formats. It's very dynamic. For example, with OpenStreetMap, the data grows after crisis. There's also event-specific data such as shake maps and such like. All this has to be combined into one place. Also, part of my challenge has also been teaching the organization why GIS helps and how. And with one GIS staff member until recently, with huge surge in needs in a crisis such as this week, quite a challenge. And crisis often hit on a Friday. This time, obviously, it was Monday, but he obviously knew I was due to have a webinar this week, Murphy. And yeah, my big gripe, of course, is that despite many attempts, the FME cloner does not work on GIS staff. So something on the problems I face and the keys to solving them. Certainly, belief in FME has helped. FME was almost always up to the task. Maybe if I wasn't, FME was. And yeah, it's simple. I start with basic processes. I solve parts of the problem. I build from there. I get help if I need to. The FME community is a good place. I reuse stuff and adapt it. Automation is key. It takes off some of the workload, and obviously FME server apps, which means I can create processes which other people can run. One major aspect was actually being proactive and just trying things, which I think FME is the perfect enabler for that. Because with a map or an app or a prototype, it's always easier to convince colleagues. Prosa is not so easy to take in, I don't think, in this sense. And obviously the constant messaging within the organization as to why the where is important. Lots and lots of perseverance. And yeah, let the results, the data, the maps, and other FME output do the talking. So I'll come to the first example here, which is fire tracking in Bolivia. It's an example which illustrates pretty much how dynamic my job can be, and certainly currently is. So yeah, it was the background being a request from the Bolivian authorities to our humanitarian hub in Lima for some assistance. They were after satellite imagery. It was, of course, a Friday evening. It goes without saying. The problem, yeah, people deployed to Bolivia to assist with the coordination, and the president, Evo Morales, was at that time was due to visit them. The challenge I was given was, so can you make this prototype you made internet accessible? And that meant, of course, moving things to ArcGIS Online so the Bolivian authorities could use it. So yeah, basically try not to panic. Think FME usually solves things. I'd had to find ways I had to learn how to write to ArcGIS Online with feature services. I had to find ways of improving the stability. Again, FME was key in being able to dose how many features were sent and updated, committed. And then, of course, I'd configured a web app and produced a summary report extracted from the data into a formatted Excel and emailed from FME server. And the result, again, was just an ArcGIS Online web app, which the Bolivian authorities used to fight the wildfires, coordinate the response. The layer choice and the option to print maps was key for the pilots because they could have gradient coordinates generated with FME. And the app was used in 2019, extended in 2020, used again in 2021. A version was also used in Europe last year. And as such, this was GIS as humanitarian aid for the very first time by Swiss Humanitarian Aid. And the crazy thing for me was certainly idea to production, a full 2.5 days. A little bit on the background. It was a very dynamic situation. The area was huge that was affected. It certainly wasn't viable to provide satellite imagery. The prototype was being built to the portal. Of course, it was a huge area, the east of Bolivia. It's a whole different scale. And the solution was recycling some FME processes I'd actually built a couple of years before for fires in Portugal, in Europe. The first output were PDFs, but of course, they definitely aren't sustainable. And time difference, dynamic situation, and so on. And I then moved to ArcGIS Online, a web app, and some emails with Excel added in. And this became, certainly it was used for the coordination of the firefighting efforts. So where they were actually sending their planes, including for the pilots. And it also integrated data which the Bolivian authorities sent us, which was also very much appreciated. So on this, I'll move to the second example involving a bit more Microsoft. This was to do with the whole COVID situation that we all faced. And so the background was us, we have offices in over 170 countries, and the COVID had a major impact on the Swiss Foreign Ministry. The urgent needs of the Crisis Management Center in spring 2020 meant that GIS and me were called up to help. This presented an opportunity to revolutionize communication in ways that would otherwise have been unimaginable. And an overview of the developments was a challenge for the organization, and communication was at the time by email. Excel was, the most advanced technology that many people knew were familiar with. So you could say they were sitting ducks for some innovation. So how to solve things? There was Microsoft SharePoint survey was proposed and implemented. The staff abroad were able to update it as often as they needed to for their situation in their country. There were questions on the typical topics of related to the COVID, the developments, the trend, travels abroad, our representation and security situation. And The web maps were produced for each of these survey sections at different topics. It was a technological leap, but they were still clinging onto Word output and email to share info. And so the content of the survey was actually exported as a JSON file in this reason, because SharePoint access with FME in our environment isn't possible. And the IT were very supportive of the whole thing. So the result was a series of web maps, which were added to a story map series, and IT produced reports and automated emailing using Click and imprinting. Well, that was the theory, shall we say. So the things set in, some doubts set in, and I can say diplomats and technological experiments don't really mix well. The report generation was buggy, and things had to be right, because yeah, we have diplomatic staff here. Nerves are on edge. They're a very difficult audience for technological innovation, so we didn't really have much room to play with. So then there was a bit of a technical crisis, you could say. This is a bit of the timeline. It was basically quit or find a way with FME. So I had 6 p.m. on a Friday. I was told, yeah, forget it. We're going to have to pull the plug on this. By 6:30, I decided, okay, I'm not going to pull the plug on this. I'm going to try and save the day with FME. I've done it before. So Saturday, new day, new topic. I started to research Word file generation with FME server, built a prototype, got some very quick help on the FME community reformatting, and the plug wasn't pulled, which is good news. And what I did was, just a series of web maps. The report generation, it worked. My generation done by FME server was served as backup for the IT system. In the end, we had 2 running systems on the Monday, having started on the Friday with none, and the production stuff was done with Click and imprinting, but everything local for the HQ and for support was done by FME server. And these are some of the stats that were involved. So yeah, idea to production would, in this case, were 2 weeks. A typical timescale would be for such a thing in our organization would be at least 18 months. So it was busy. It was planned for about 2 months, and it ran for 2 years. So yeah, the typical situation, Swiss, stranded, lots of political pressure, a very dynamic situation with regional differences, multiple internal actors all needing an overview of the situation. And they were doing that with giant Excel sheets and there was no overview, shall we say. So the FME, the Microsoft SharePoint questionnaire was used. It was processed. Simple maps. Note the Microsoft Word writer and styler in there, and the output were just some pretty simple web maps, but some automated email generation. I've lost my mouse. Yeah, and yeah, in summary, you could say I learned a lot. A workspace which breaks Don's 10 transformer rule. It's not the only reason I say it was transformational, though. The Microsoft Word writer and styler were critical in 2 ways in supporting IT and convincing the organization. And without MS Word writer, it would not have been possible, quite simply. So it was a bit of an unexpected little adventure. And yeah, without FME, I just definitely would not be sitting here. I might not still have a job. GIS really was finally established, using it to do all sorts of problems. The GIS team has expanded, and I don't think the examples I showed could have happened without FME. and my conviction that there somehow would be a way, despite the pressure. So I'm living it this week, and if you have any questions on that, feel free to ask them. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Mary. It's still, you know, I've seen this a couple of times now, and I'm still amazed by it. And you know, I'm reminded, I got to work in a Star Trek quote. Commander Data once told Captain Picard that things are impossible until they're not. I might have that quote wrong, and someone out there will probably correct me, but the quote is things are impossible until they're not. And that's kind of what you have shown us with this. And it's so amazing to see what was created there. We will hand it off, I think, to Kailin right now. If anybody has questions, please do put them into the panel. Mary's willing to hang around for the next little while. We'll answer them at the end, but Kailin will take over here right away and start to show us from sort of base principles how you too could start getting data into the hands of the non-GIS type of people, the so-called citizens in your organization. And I guess on a personal level, actually, I see that Brian Timoney is on the call from Denver, and it was at an FME World Tour in Denver once where Brian Timoney inspired me to try to make FME be able to produce Microsoft Word documents and PowerPoint. And so Brian, a little bit, this is all because of you. So we are indebted to you for your insights there. And so anyway, we went ahead and did that, and it has warmed my heart. I remember I just about jumped out of my chair when I saw Mary's presentation because I was so excited to see the impact that that work had in her organization. So thanks so much, Mary. And with that, we'll hand it to Kailin.
Thanks, Dale, and thanks, Mary, for the awesome introduction, and thanks for the time on it during your crazy week. So now that you've kind of seen the power of FME's Word and PowerPoint writers, I'm going to show you how you can get started with these formats in FME Workbench. So we're going to review how to style features, how to write features, and then review some tips and tricks as well. So hopefully when you leave this webinar, you'll leave with a better idea of how you can use FME to automate document creation. So we are going to start with a flash demo. For the first two demonstrations, I hope you don't mind. I actually used some personal content. I had a lot of fun making this webinar. So my parents have really enjoyed adopting pets as of lately. They're big advocates for animal rescue, and so we have quite the zoo at home. And so in this flash demo, I'm going to use FME Workbench to create a PowerPoint presentation to introduce the audience, or you guys, to my home zoo. So let's hop right into Workbench. So typically presentations start with an introduction, and then they kind of flow and they end with a conclusion or some kind of resource slide. So this is kind of how I've set this up. We're going to go ahead and start with a creator, and we're going to create a new text string in here, and this is going to become the title of our presentation. From there, we can go ahead and expose that FME text string, and then we can style it with our PowerPoint styler. And here we're going to choose the slide type as title slide. And we don't have to do any typing. We can sub that attribute right in. After we have our title slide, then we can start looking at our contents. So here I'm going to add a folder of images, and you can see that the file name is the name of the pet. From here, we can add another PowerPoint styler, and we're going to do image with a title. We can add FME base name as the title because it is the name of each pet, and then we're going to grab the image source from the feature. Once that's done, we can add a second creator and create another FME text string storing a thank you message, and this will become our conclusion slide. So we're going to expose that same FME text string, and then we're going to style it again with another title slide. Once we're done, we can add our PowerPoint writer. And before running, I'm actually just going to open up the parameters and make note that I am using a PowerPoint template in here, so you will see some styling on the output. Now, before running, I'm going to actually make sure I'm not in feature caching mode, and I'm going to go ahead and run the workspace. And we'll talk about feature caching a little bit later on. All right, and let's take a look. And you can see we have a really basic PowerPoint presentation with all of our contents included. So I'm just going to close this down and hop back into the slides. So we're just going to quickly review. So we took an input folder of multiple images. We ran it through our FME workspace. We used PowerPoint stylers to style our features and then a PowerPoint writer to create the presentation. And this was our output. So now that you've kind of met the gang, I'd like to show you how to create a simple Word document with the same or kind of similar content. So typically when we go on vacation as a family, we hire a pet sitter to come and look after the house. Generally, it's a little bit cheaper than taking them somewhere individually. When we do this, we usually write 5 or 6 sticky notes kind of and plaster them on the fridge. So I wanted to see if FME could improve this process. So in the next workspace, we're going to use FME to create a guide for the future pet sitter. And let me just pull the right demo up here. Okay, so we're starting with our creator. We're going to create another title feature, and then we're styling it. This time we're using a Microsoft Word styler because we're writing to Word. You can see we're reading in that same JPEG folder, but this time we're actually joining it with a spreadsheet. So we're going to enrich the information coming in. Okay, so you can see we're joining on the base name into a column in the spreadsheet called name, and we're going to pull in these fields. So I would like information on the feeding schedule, age, maybe other notes, how many times they need to be walked per day. So we're using an MS Word styler to create the heading. So each pet will have a heading name and then an image. And then these 3 bottom MS Word stylers will create our list. So again, just going to make sure I'm not in feature caching mode, and I'm going to rerun the entire workspace. Let's just check out what's going on with the template. Okay, looks good. So we're just going to run.
Lots of work processing the rasters.
Yes. And we can just quickly open our pet sitting guide. Oh, not with FME though. Default.
That's hardcore when we start reading Word. That's pretty hardcore. Okay, cool.
Thanks. All right.
Can you just while you're there, I would like to just, would you mind going back to that folder? Because I think we didn't do justice to the pet sitter guide.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I mean Meet the Zoo, the slideshow. Can you just open up the slideshow again?
Yeah.
And let's see it in PowerPoint. And let's walk through the slides. So basically, you ended up with a slide for each. Here we go.
All right.
So there. Oh wow. Okay. So that's, how do you pronounce that name?
That would be Fira. So this is my kitty actually. She's the oldest one.
Okay.
Freya.
This is understanding our test data.
Yeah. Sorry, I missed this.
Howsy.
Little Demon, Lucy, and then my favorites are the puppies. So Samson and Otis.
Okay.
And thank you.
Right. So there you go. That was all generated. That's who we're working with. And then I guess you'll show us the spreadsheet is in your slides. Is it that, like, I'm curious where that augmented data came from.
Yes, so that was the spreadsheet that we joined with the database joiner to pull in the information for feeding schedule and the age and other information.
Yes.
Which we then ran through our workspace.
Right. And I see someone, Sean, can you hop back to that just for a sec? Sean is asking, the input to the Word document is ordered after the heading by top to bottom. And I think Kailin will get into this, but order, yes. I'm reminded of the British speaker in the House of Commons, order, order, order. Order is so important in these cases. And that's exactly right. So the title, the creator fires first, spits out the title. As we read each JPEG one by one, it goes to the database joiner, and then it splits into basically 6 pieces there, and Kailin controls the order of the split so that the name and all those things come out in a certain order, and then they hit the document, because FME in its core likes to get rid of data as fast as it can. So when it reads something, it tries to push that through to the end, and by managing the order, we can create the magic in these situations. So that's a good question. So anyway, I'll hand it back to you, Kailin. Sorry.
No, that's okay. And I will show you how I'm controlling order in this workspace, but that will be just a little bit down the road.
Ooh, I just have to answer James. He asks if you could make a different document for every pet. And I think, do you have an example like that coming up?
I sure do.
Okay, hold on, James. You're going to get your answer live.
Awesome. I'm glad to see there's so many questions. So this was the output from our second demo. And yeah, we really just went over how to combine multiple media sources, so a spreadsheet and some images, and write to a single Word destination file. Okay, so order and FME. So if you're familiar with PDF writing, then you probably understand how important feature order is in FME. So generally, features are going to be written in the same order that they're read. And when we're writing to Microsoft Word or PowerPoint or PDF even, we want to explicitly control feature order in the workspace. And there's a few different ways that we can do this. So firstly, if you're writing to PowerPoint, then we can take advantage of the slide order group by parameter. When this parameter is left as automatic, then all features going to the Microsoft PowerPoint writer will be written as they arrive at the writer. But if you provide a value, then slides will be sorted by this value before being written. I'm just going to make a note of the slide order within group. This parameter determines how slides are ordered when they have the same value for the slide order group by. So you can actually make groups of slides and then still order your slides within those groups. Oops. Okay, so if you're not writing to Microsoft PowerPoint, but you wanted to mimic a similar sorting method, you can actually do the same thing with attribute creators and sorters. So here we're creating an order attribute, and then we're sorting by this numerically, ascendingly. This was the sorting method used in the first demo. So if you're using creator features in your workspace, the creators have this parameter called create at end. And this parameter determines when creator features will be created, whether it's after or before all reader features have been processed. So in this screenshot, we have the title feature being created before all the all the JPEGs are read. And then we have our closing feature or closing creator feature created after all the JPEGs are read. That way we have a nice natural flow going to our writer. Lastly, so if a transformer output port connects to more than one destination, you can actually control the connection runtime order. So in this case, which is our last demo, our database joiner is connected to multiple MS Word stylers, so we were able to set connection runtime order by right-clicking on the database joiner output port. I think you can right-click on just about any output port and then just use the arrows to sort to the desired execution order. Some other tips and tricks. If you've implemented one of these sorting methods and your features are still coming out in a weird order, your title is at the bottom of your document, or maybe your thank you slide is at the beginning of your presentation, you're probably dealing with stale caches. So maybe try disabling feature caching or try rerunning your entire workspace each time. In a lot of these demos, I was integrating with Excel. So sometimes Excel is brought into FME via bulk mode. So if you're running into bulk mode errors when you're trying to join or style features, then consider adding a decelerator of 0. It should resolve the issue. All right, so we're going to actually do another Microsoft Word demo now, but it's going to be a little bit more advanced. So there's so many awesome people doing so many awesome things at SAFE and outside of SAFE, like Mary, that it's really nice to show appreciation sometimes. And so we're going to use Chris's OpenAI connector to automate thank you letter creation. And the goal here is to have one thank you letter per person or per prompt. So I'm going to hop into FME Workbench. All right, I'm actually going to take a look at the spreadsheet outside of FME before we run. Okay, so you can see we have a few columns, and then we have our prompt where we're explicitly telling OpenAI what we need. So we're going to get the response from the OpenAI connector, and then we're going to flatten the response body from there. This top stream is creating our letter body, so this is going to actually have the guts of the letter. This middle stream down here is going to be used to create our signature lines. So we're actually going to feature read a signature image and then put it in our letter. And then the bottom bookmark here, we're just creating a date. So we're taking the timestamp of now and styling it and then writing. You can see in this workspace, we're using attribute creators and a sorter to control the feature order. And I'm going to go ahead and disable caching and run this. Oh, actually, one more thing to note, because we want one letter per person or per prompt in our Microsoft Word Writer, we're actually doing a fan out expression, and this way we'll get one file per name in the spreadsheet. We are using a base file as well, and you'll see the styling added on output.
Hey, Kailin, can you just do that again in slow motion? Because I think that's a really, if people aren't familiar with FME, we have this concept of a fan out, which means you can cause an attribute value to result in a new file name. And that's the magic that Kailin is showing there. So she's taking the name, and I guess it'll be to Elizabeth or Mary or whatever, and adding on a docx, and that's going to become the file name. And so the different formats in FME have different things that get controlled by the fan out, whether it's directory or file name or whatever, but that's the magic. Fan out, and boom goes the dynamite. That's the way you get different output files.
Correct. So this is kind of what one of our three letters would look like.
They're so sincere. Can I see?
Sure. Do you want to?
Let's see Mary's. Let's see how sincere we were.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, there we go. Well, we are grateful for your willingness to share. And that is true, Mary. Your stories are always entertaining and informative. So basically, I think OpenAI has been trained to know Mary.
Be careful, Mary. Okay, so we're gonna hop back into the slides quickly. Okay. Oh, so we just did the demo, but this is our input spreadsheet, and we took it through our FME workspace, and we used our MS Word stylers and Word writers to create multiple thank you letters.
I can tell you all that I actually used a variation of this to create Gmail drafts. There's a way to do, instead of the word writer at the end, you just route that to a emailer transformer. And if you're using Gmail, you can say, make me drafts. And then you go and you personalize and correct the drafts afterwards. But it was very helpful. I was writing 50 emails to kind of thank donors to a project. And I think it was worthwhile because I was able to have a little bit of a personalized touch in each of them, and it was helpful.
Okay. So just moving on, so base files are not template files. This might kind of catch you up in the beginning, but the writer will the writer will add to an existing base file using the file settings. So for example, if your base file has specific style headings or style fonts, it will use this and save to a new file. So if you're using a base file with existing features in it, the word writer will not modify or delete these features, but it will append all new features to the end of the document. So if you want a blank document, just make sure that there's nothing but styling in your base file. And to avoid awkward formatting, try using formatting functions available in Word and PowerPoint themselves. It just makes it a little bit easier on the FME side of things. Okay, so if you've picked up on the pattern here, you can probably predict that we're going to now look at a more advanced PowerPoint example. So in this demo, we're going to be taking a webinar spreadsheet with multiple attendees lists for different webinars and creating a summarized business presentation to make information more digestible. Or maybe you wanted to send upper management a summary report of your webinar. This is kind of how you could do it. Okay. So I'm just going to open up our spreadsheet again and take a look. So we should have two sheets in here, one for Excel attendees and one for GMO webinar attendees. Just a side note, all of this data has been made with FME, so there's no, this is all just fake data. So the goal here is to create one presentation per sheet in our spreadsheet. So in all of our transformers, we're going to be enabling this group by process, and we're going to be grouping by the feature type. That way all GML data and all Excel data is going to be consolidated to one presentation. So you can see in here, we're doing some stats, but I'm actually not going to spend too much time there. where am I? There we go. So in our first PowerPoint styler, we're actually just creating a title. So we're grabbing the feature type, and that will be the name of the presentation. And then we're adding a subtitle and sharing how many attendees were at each presentation. We're also adding a user review slide. So we want to know the users with the best ratings. And so we're going to sample the greatest 3 features and then add this to our PowerPoint presentation as a table. We're going to use a chart generator to make some graphics. So we want to know how many people want a copy of the recording, and we're going to use FME to create a pie chart here, and we're going to write this as an image slide. And then lastly, I would like to know if there's any unanswered questions. So we're going to use some conditionals to pull out any unanswered questions and then write them all to a consolidated slide where maybe someone can go and address them later on. Because we're using FME, I wanted to bring some kind of spatial element into our PowerPoint. So I tried to create a map slide. Little did I know that map slides are actually exclusive for vectors. So if you're trying to write some kind of raster image or raster map, you're going to have to use an image slide. So down here, we're getting 2 feature types from our reader for the GML and Excel. But because we're reading in our WMTS, we're actually going to need to use some conflict resolution parameters from here so that we can preserve the 2 feature types coming from the reader, but use the geometry from the result feature. Once we have our data in and we have a raster on each feature, we really just create the points for our attendees using the lat long value in the spreadsheet, and we can overlay it. Once our map is kind of configured, then we can just add it with a caption to explain what's going on. And we can take a look at the result.
So just as Captain Obvious here, I'm curious, so just double check. So all the data is coming in and you're creating on the bottom thing there, the first thing you're doing is creating a bounding box for all of it. And that's what lets you lift out a background map from some service you found somewhere. Is that right?
Correct. So we're getting a bounding box of the area, we're reprojecting it, we're extracting our boundaries.
Yeah.
And then we're feeding this into our feature reader parameters. So we're just getting the data we need.
And that mapping service is one that is just available somewhere online, or is it a safe service, or whose service is this?
I think this is a BC government service I stole from the internet.
Hey, this portion sponsored by the province of British Columbia.
Let's take a look at the output now. So you can see that's what we wanted, 2 new presentations.
So you were fanning out again. So you fanned out by
yes.
yeah.
Yes, I was. And there is a base file in here, so that's why the output is styled as well.
Ooh, okay. This is close to what we actually do at SAFE after each webinar. So Elizabeth's going to have extra time.
Woohoo! I love it.
Awesome. I think I just have a few more slides before I hand it off to you. So we took our input spreadsheet with our multiple sheets per webinar attendees. We ran it through our FME workspace, styling our features accordingly, and then we were able to create an output presentation. So just some summary points. If you're able to use FME transformers in your workspace, but as soon as you really start learning and understanding the parameters, you can really elevate your workflows. You can use base files to help create more static outputs, and feature order is very, very important when working with these formats.
So Kailin, there was some questions about the base files. So again, in both cases, the base files are always appended to. So if you have some static content, that can be at the top. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
And then you can, like if you know you want the titles to look a certain way, like those styler transformers talk about titles and headings and things, and it's basically going to take whatever was set up in that base file and use that. So that's what you're getting at, is by preparing the base file, just either copying one off your friend or off the internet, or starting from scratch and kind of getting that all the way you like. That's the key to producing great output. Frankly, your outputs on this webinar were way better than anything I've ever created. So I can tell you put some effort into your base files.
Yeah, it didn't take too much time. If you use the Word formatting, then it makes it really easy. But I always make sure my base files are empty. So for all of these demos, my base files were completely empty, and the only thing that they had was styling definitions in them.
Right. And that made all the difference. So that's, I can see many people were asking about that. So, and just out of curiosity, where did you get your base files, or how what did you do in the case of this webinar for each of them, both the PowerPoint and the other one, the Word?
Sorry, can you say that one more time? I think you cut out a little bit.
Sorry, where did you download these from somewhere, or how did you make them look so nice?
Oh,
What's the
sorry.
trick?
I just created them. I used open source images from Google, and then I just saved images.
Okay. So just, I guess if you know your way, obviously you know your way around Word and PowerPoint a bit, and you can set up the template, basically save it as the base file, and off you go.
Yeah, I secretly love PowerPoint outside of FME, so this was a really fun webinar for me.
Ah, you're a
Yes.
closet PowerPoint expert. Excellent. Yeah, so I'll just wrap up with some of the wrap-up material, and we'll get everybody back online and do some last Q&A. So if anything today intrigued you, and many of you have asked, and all of Kailin's stuff, I don't know, will you be including the pictures of your cats and dogs even in the webinar follow-up, Kailin, or is that confidential information?
I genuinely don't see why not.
Good. So that means you'll be able to get Kailin's examples, everything she showed here today, and run it yourself. I think you'd need to get your own OpenAI key. Kailin, you will want to take your key out of the
Yes.
out of the workspace. But aside from that, you should be good to go. You can grab all of this works with our current release, FME 2022, and then you can go ahead and start learning and experimenting. I mean, really, Kailin, would you say the way to kind of win at this is to just not be afraid to experiment and try things? And I think we saw that with Mary as well. It's a little bit quirky to get stuff rolling, but it's pretty easy to just iterate and go. Is that what would you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Get your hands dirty.
Get your hands dirty. So there are some tutorials, and you can get these slides. Actually, you can download these slides right now out of Livestorm, and then you can go on these links right here about how to get started with PowerPoint, and also how to get going with Microsoft Word. So those are on our Knowledge Center, and you can get going with that. If you're a member of our community, where there's about 25,000 other like-minded people, today's code will get you a badge to add to your stash. And so that would be important for you if you're a community member, and thank you for being one. And you can look at our past webinars as well as upcoming ones. Again, I mentioned there's 2 more that we had in the last 6 weeks or so that were kind of related to this, that you might find interesting if this is something that is up your alley. And Elizabeth has actually already sent the links to those. If you're brand new to FME, attending the 90-minute FME Accelerator is a quick way to get a good overview of all the stuff that Mary was showing, and kind of give you a sense or a taste of what is available to you. And you can grab our ebook if you feel like that, to learn about spatial data for the enterprise. And of course, the upcoming thing will be right down the road from Mary, and I should get her on the line to ask, Mary, will we see you in Bonn, Germany, or is it too early to say? We'll let her get on at the end here, and we'll ask her that. But we're all very excited to be headed to Bonn in September, and looking forward to seeing many, many amazing talks like the one that Mary gave us today by users from around the world, and especially from Europe as well. And we do value your feedback. I can say that on this Peer Insights, SAFE was recently got the crown as the kind of highest ranked one in North America. And for that, the highest ranked data integration platform in North America from our customers, our peers. And we thank you all of you who participated in that. And we do value your reviews there. That does help us and mean a lot to us as well. All right. So with that, let's do some Q&A. Wow, there was someone that got up at 2 a.m. Marcus, you're a hero. Do tell us what part of the world you're in, but that was hardcore to join us from 2 a.m. Glad you found it worthwhile. And let's see if we can get Mary back on the line, and Kezia, and we'll start. Maybe we'll ask Kezia to just summarize the kinds of questions and take a quick peek at the questions that we're pouring in the last 3 minutes that we have. And as they're joining, I will say, yes, the sample workspaces, I think, Elizabeth, you send out an email afterwards that'll have all of them. Is that what goes on?
Yeah, exactly. So we'll send out a follow-up email to everyone who's registered, and there'll be a link there to the workspaces included.
Excellent. And so let's see. Oh, some people are asking about a Google Docs reader and writer, and boy, I would sure like that. So thanks for asking that, and I will make sure that our product managers know that. Yeah, respond with the heart eyes if you too would use. We have a Google Sheets reader and writer, but we haven't done it for Google Docs yet. And actually, not Google Sheets. Yes, Google Sheets. Yes, Google Sheets. Not Google Slides. Google Slides we don't do, but yes, we should do Google Docs one day. So let's see. Was there any questions, Kezia, that you think we should pay special attention to?
For sure. I think a lot of them were around the base file once again. We did answer it live earlier, but I'm not sure if there's time for Kailin to just showcase how to create a base file in Word. We're just setting up the styling.
Can you just bring up, Kailin, can you just bring up Word and open up your base file and show us your trick? Well, I don't know, or just show us what, I actually don't know where the styling even is in Word. And I'm putting Kailin on the spot here.
I sure can. Let me just reshare my screen.
And while she's bringing that up, I will acknowledge Bruce. Yes, we have examples about bringing map chips from Esri map services floating around, and that is a great way. We've done that before. And yeah, you can integrate Esri stuff, and then you can output that as an image into any of these, either Word or PowerPoint as well. So I'm going to say I'm done answering Bruce's. That's a good idea. And Kailin, we got infinity and beyond going there.
Sorry.
That's okay.
There we go. So we actually do have an article for how to create a base file, which I'm going to link out in the chat. So for this styling, for example, all I did here was in the design fields, you can add a page border, and then you can add a watermark as well. So I had a few different ones, FME logos and whatnot. Just do a custom watermark. If you're trying to add some kind of heading style or some kind of font style, you're going to have to come to this home and then styles down. You're going to want to create a style and then modify the style. And this is where you name it. You can choose which type it is. So if you want to create a list style, for example, and then you go set up, and then you can add it to this document. And so you just want to delete everything again before saving, unless you want something in there, and then you'd add this as a base file. So if I had a table in here, for example, and then I reran the workspace, everything would get posted to below this table.
Yeah.
Yep.
Someone did ask if we can put tables out to Microsoft Word, and I think there is a table option, is there, in the Word styler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so,
just random.
Yeah, it's a table, and it won't take exactly how it was styled in Excel, but you can basically set up a table which will look quite nice in your output Word document. It takes a wee bit of fiddling to kind of get all these settings just the way you want, but it does work well.
And it's worth it.
There you go. So is there anything else we should look at before we, I don't know what was meant by Control J for the Word file. Do you know what Control J would mean?
No.
I haven't used that one before, that hotkey.
Okay, no, we don't know. Got us stumped on that one. We kind of have looked at a few of these else. Word template files, can they be used as base files? I don't remember if that works or not. I think maybe it might. Do you know, Kailin?
Yeah, actually, Word is limited to base files. So template files can be used with PowerPoint, but for some
Okay.
reason, yeah, just
Okay.
base files.
So what you do is just open that up separately and then like use Word to open up the template file and just save it as a docx, and then you'd be okay.
Yeah, so I think the difference is the base files, you don't interact, or sorry, you don't interact with the base files where you do interact or write to features in a template. I think that might be
Okay.
the difference.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, it's past our time. And if some of you want to hang around and keep chatting a little longer, we can, but maybe we should call that a wrap. And I should once again express heartfelt thanks on behalf of all the attendees and all of SAFE. Mary, thank you so much for taking time this week on top of everything else. And I really do wish you I know you said tomorrow is going to be a very busy day, but I hope it goes as best as possible. But at least I hope you have a calm Friday in your part of the world. So thank you so much for joining us today.
If I may, thank you, Dale. Thanks everyone for listening. It was a pleasure to take part. Wearing my lucky FME socks, I think it just about survived. So all the best to everyone.
Maybe we should send you a whole box full of FME socks. It sounds like you could use them.
I think so.
Anyway, thanks so much. And Kailin, thank you so much for the great demos. I know the audience will very much appreciate getting those to walk through. They're really understandable, and we can relate to them. And people will, again, we hope that you're inspired by this to figure out how you can use this in your own work to just make your lives and your organizations more productive. And Kezia, thank you so much for answering in the back there, and for joining us today. And Elizabeth, as always, thank you so much for keeping us all on track and getting us organized and together. And with that, I'll hand it off to you, Elizabeth, to take us home.
Awesome. Thanks, Dale. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate it. If you do have a moment to let us know what you thought of the webinar, we love any feedback we can get. I just dropped that link in the chat. And with that, we hope that you all have a great rest of your day, and bye for now.